On Wednesday morning, 17-year-old Austin Metcalf, a junior at Memorial High School in Frisco, Texas, was killed at a track meet.
Several witnesses, including Metcalf's twin brother, describe how that deadly encounter went down.
My son is gone, and I don't really have words. I've tried to figure out what I was going to say, but he's just going to be so missed.
I feel sorry for that individual because he's now made a mistake that's going to cost him the rest of his life. My son watched his brother die in his arms.
Hey true crime besties, welcome back to an all-new episode of Serialously. Hey everybody, welcome back to an all-new episode of Serialously. I am your host, Annie Elise, and I am here to break down another case with you today. And today's case is one that is happening right now. It's unfolding in real time. It is extremely controversial, and there are a lot of mixed opinions out there. I also just want to warn you that while this is still breaking and new information is being released, please, as a reminder, always do your own research, always form your own opinions. There happens to be a lot of misinformation out there right now regarding this case too, so that's part of the reason I wanted to jump on here so quickly and do this episode, because I want to just not set the record straight, but really lay out the facts of this case that are actual true facts, so then you can, determine what you believe this case is all about, what you think justice means in this case, and go from there. So again, as always, do your own research and come to your own conclusions and opinions. So today we will be talking about the case of Austin Metcalf. The case begins on April 2nd, 2025, around 10 a.m. Two high school boys, 17 years old, Austin Metcalf and Karmelo Anthony, were at a track meet in Frisco, Texas. The two of them got into an argument with one another, and then the argument turned fatal. Austin was a student at Memorial High School, while Karmelo went to Centennial High School, so two separate high schools, but still in the same school district in Frisco. Now, as for the fight itself, in terms of who did what, who started it, who instigated it, nobody really seems to agree on the facts of the case. It's one of those situations where it all really depends on who you're asking and who's retelling the story to you. But so far as the broad strokes of it go, everyone is mostly in agreement of what really took place. Apparently, there were these different tents that were set up for the different high schools. So everybody at the track meet would really have their own area to hang out with their own classmates, and they wouldn't have to be around other people from rival schools or even just other schools, right? According to witnesses, for whatever reason, Karmelo was at Austin's team's tent. And I don't know if maybe he was at this tent because he wanted to talk with somebody that he knew, or if he had a reason to be there, but what I do know is that apparently Austin took issue with Karmelo being there. According to one of the witnesses on the scene, Austin went up to Karmelo and told him he needed to leave. He needed to go and find his own team's tent. But instead of listening, Karmelo grabbed his backpack and he reached his hand inside of it, kind of insinuating that he had something in there, but not really fully showing Austin what it was yet, just kind of like a threat, putting his hand in, being like, oh yeah, I need to, kind of like that, you get what I mean? But then he allegedly said to Austin, touch me and see what happens. And according to the police report, Austin then pushed Karmelo. So then Karmelo said something like, okay, punch me and see what happens. And I'll just be clear, I don't know if those were his exact words verbatim, but it was something to that effect. So at this point, things were getting more and more heated, and you could really tell that the vibe was off and that these two 17-year-old kids were starting to get angry at each other, and tensions were starting to build. Then Austin apparently grabbed Karmelo, and it seemed like maybe he was trying to physically remove him from the tent, like pushing him out or dragging him out, but being like, I'm gonna get you out if you're not gonna leave, something like that. But then Karmelo took his hand out of the bag, and he showed Austin what he had been holding on to. And it was something that witnesses described as being a, quote, black knife. And I don't know what kind of knife it was, if it was a kitchen knife, a pocket knife, a K-bar knife, I don't really know. Or I don't even know if it was maybe something else, but what the witness described it as being was a black knife. That is what they said. And there have been a lot of rumors going around online saying that it actually wasn't even a knife, but it was a cleat sharpener rather, which, to be honest, I don't know if that's true or if that's just one more piece of misinformation, like I mentioned earlier. But it is important to note that in the arrest reports, the object was classified as a knife. So I would imagine if it was a cleat sharpener, they probably would have specified that, but maybe not. I don't know. What do I know? But I wanted to bring it up just in case there was any truth to that gossip. You know, I haven't heard anything about the Frisco Police Department confirming that it actually was a cleat sharpener. I've only seen this theory in different TikTok videos out there and in video comments that are out there. And again, the police report says that it's a knife, but wanted to at least, mention it here. So the point is that before anybody could react to this or stop what was happening, Karmelo grabbed this sharp instrument out of his backpack and he stabbed Austin right in the chest, once really hard right near his chest. Then Karmelo apparently ran away from the tent as soon as he possibly could. He just booked it and fled the scene. However, it of course didn't make this entire situation any less chaotic, right? People were panicking. There was now this 17-year-old teenage kid on the ground just bleeding out by the second. I mean, talk about traumatic for everybody involved, adults, kids, anybody who was there. Now, in a very heartbreaking and harrowing detail, Austin was actually a twin. And his brother Hunter was inside the tent when all of this went down. And I guess Hunter either heard all of the commotion or he saw like the mass panic and everybody running and everybody trying to make sense of what was going on. But he knew that his brother was inside that tent. So when he saw all of this chaos unfolding, he ran over to check on his twin brother Austin. And when he got there, that's when he saw Austin just lying there, barely conscious. Now, Hunter hasn't spoken much publicly about how he felt or what he was thinking in this situation. Understandably so, because it sounds like an incredibly personal and difficult decision to be in. But this is what we have gathered from witness testimony. So reportedly, Hunter laid there with Austin, just holding his twin brother in his arms, waiting for help, hoping that somebody was going to come and fix this and make his brother better and make him conscious again. And somebody did, of course, call 911, and paramedics and first responders rushed to the scene. But Austin's injuries were too serious for them to be able to help him. They tried. They pulled Hunter away from Austin. They tried giving Austin CPR. They even tried giving him some blood. But unfortunately, the injuries were too serious. Austin was gone. His brother, his twin brother, held him in his arms as his twin brother passed away. It's just heartbreaking at just 17 years old.
What happened today? I don't know. I got a phone call from Hunter. He was screaming that Austin had been stabbed. I was at work, and so I drove. I work in Grapevine, so I drove up to the hospital straight away. I actually beat the ambulance there. Yeah, I saw them have him come out. He was on a lot of machines, and it didn't take long for them to come in to say that he had passed. So, not sure, senseless act of a boy that was in the wrong tent, and my son doing the right thing by telling that boy that he needed to be removed from where he was, and just doesn't make any sense. That's just because the kid was mad, my son is not here anymore, and I don't understand it.
Now, I told you that Hunter hasn't spoken out much about all of this, but he has said a little bit. And there is one quote from him that I feel like I just need to share with you because it's such a gut punch, but it also is so indicative of that moment and what these boys went through, what this boy particularly went through. He says, quote, "I put my hand on there. I grabbed his hand and I looked in his eyes. I just saw his soul leave, and it took mine too." Just heartbreaking, right? We all hear about the connection that twins have with one another, that you can feel their pain, you can feel their emotion, you can feel everything. So to be there with your twin brother, holding his hand as he takes his last breath, and according to Hunter, watching his soul leave his body and feeling your own soul leave your body with him, it is so devastating. It breaks my heart. Now, as for Karmelo, the kid from the other school who stabbed Austin, he took off from the tent, but it wasn't like he was hiding or on the run or anything like that. Because when the police officers arrived, he was actually standing right there on the track, not seeming like he was trying to make a run for it away from the police, just more so that he tried to get out of the tent. He wanted to get away from the actual scene of the crime and where it all went down. But then he was just standing there on the track while the police officers arrived, not trying to hide, not trying to make a run for it, just standing there. Meanwhile, he had thrown the murder weapon at some point into the bleachers, and the officers were able to recover it while it was still just lying there where he had thrown it. It was right between row 9 and 10, not too far from the aisleway, so it seems as though when he fled the tent, he just threw it trying to get rid of it before maybe reality of everything that was going on set in. And what I mean by that is that maybe he tried to throw it because he was going to take off and go on the run, and then he realized he couldn't. And again, that's just my personal opinion. So anyway, it's not like the police had to do this massive search for Karmelo or for the murder weapon. In fact, he was pretty cooperative when the police started questioning him and even when they ultimately arrested him. However, everybody was pretty surprised when they heard what his reasoning for stabbing Austin was, because Karmelo was saying that the entire thing happened in self-defense. The weather is officially breaking over here in California, and it's warming up, so I feel like it's finally spring kicking off, which means fresh air, sunshine, good food. That's what spring's all about, right? And HelloFresh makes it easier to fit quick, home-cooked meals into your everyday schedule. They curate these delicious recipes like pasta primavera, chicken Dijon, pecan-crusted trout, and they also have over 100 seasonal snacks, sides, and treats. And in 2025, they have evolved to fit every single lifestyle by bringing customers even more convenience, all without compromising on taste, health, or homemade quality. And their new ready-made meals offer chef-crafted flavorful dishes that are ready in just 3 minutes. So you can dig in, start grubbing out, get outside, get work done, be in the sunshine, just get some me time, whatever it is you want to do. Every HelloFresh meal uses high-quality ingredients, including seasonal fresh produce and proteins that travel from the farm right to your doorstep. There's also flexible deliveries that you can pause or skip whenever you need. I like that HelloFresh, their quick meals, have made it so easy for me on days where I don't really have time to cook a big meal after school pickup. I just want to get them fed, get them in the bath, get them in the bed, and I'm not skipping out on the health factor. It's still as delicious. It's kid approved. They've just come in clutch in those moments. So feel great with meals that fit your spring schedule and make the season even more delicious. Go to HelloFresh.com/AE10FM and get 10 free meals with a free item for life. 1 per box with active subscription. Free meals apply as a discount on the first box, and new subscribers only, varies by plan. That's HelloFresh.com/AE10FM. Every day I make countless decisions. When I'm recording, when I'm deciding what cases to cover, I just make decisions all day, every day. But one of the easiest and the most important decisions that I've ever made is securing my home with SimpliSafe. The moment that I arm my system, I know that my family, that everything I've worked for, everything I have, everything's protected. Whether I'm stepping out for the day or settling in for the night, that small action, it delivers something completely priceless. Peace of mind. I can focus on what matters, I can rest easier, and I can just go about my day knowing that SimpliSafe has my back in case there's ever a crisis. And I really want everybody else to have that same confidence too, because it's a scary world out there. And what I love about SimpliSafe too is there's an app that I have on my phone where I can see all the cameras in real time. I get notifications if anything's weird. It even has motion sensors. It just makes it so simple. And traditional security systems only take action after somebody has already broken in and it's too late. But SimpliSafe's Active Guard outdoor protection can actually help prevent break-ins before they happen. AI-powered cameras backed by live professional monitoring agents will monitor your property and detect any suspicious activity. So if somebody's lurking around or acting suspiciously, these agents not only see them, but they talk to them in real time. They activate spotlights, they contact the police, all before these people and these creeps and freaks have a chance to even enter inside your home. There's also no long-term contracts, no cancellation fees, and monitoring plans start at about $1 a day. There's also a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, or you get your money back. So visit SimpliSafe.com/Annie and claim 50% off a new system with a professional monitoring plan and get your first month free. That's SimpliSafe.com/Annie. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. The very first police officer who arrived on the scene was actually the first person who dealt with Karmelo directly. And before this officer could even put Karmelo in handcuffs, Karmelo actually said the words, quote, "I was protecting myself." Then when the officer got on the radio to say that he had the alleged suspect in custody, Karmelo apparently interrupted him and said, "I'm not alleged. I did it. just seemingly having nothing to hide. Now, at one point during the walk back to the police cruiser, the officer claimed that Karmelo also said to him, he put his hands on me. I told him not to. Kind of like as a, hey, I told him this would happen, or I told him he shouldn't do that, and he did it anyway. Then, at one point, he asked if Austin was okay, or if he was going to be okay, because apparently he had no idea that Austin was dying and then did die. Although I'm sure he may have suspected that it was a possibility, and that's why he was asking, he certainly didn't know that that had already happened. The truth became clear enough, though, before long, because Karmelo ultimately ended up being charged with first-degree murder. And of course, I'm going to talk a bit more about the case and some recent developments, but before I do that, I do want to talk a little bit more about Austin. I want to just talk about the kind of kid that Austin was, because it's so tragic that he was a victim and that he lost his life in this, but he was also so much more than that. And I always think that it's important that we remember people for who they were when they were alive, not just for how they died, right? And like I said, Austin was a twin. He and his twin brother Hunter were very close for their entire lives. Austin was also described as being a peacemaker, somebody who always liked to make sure that everybody was getting along, that everything was good between people, and that everybody was always having a good time. He also had big dreams that can now never be fulfilled.
Tell me about Austin. What do you want people to know about your boy?
Oh, he was the most amazing kid. Oh, so smart. He had college football guys looking at him to play in college. His goal was to play in college. He just wanted to play football. His life was going to the gym and working out and being a leader on his football team. And he just had such ambitions and a drive that it's hard to find in a kid. And he's just such a good spirit. And so many kids loved him. And his brother's lost his best friend.
They're twins, right?
Yeah, identical twins. Yeah. They've been they are the best of friends. I'm so worried about my son because he's going to have to face this world alone now because he had a brother that was with him the whole time and now he's going to have to do it alone and I'm just so worried about him. I really am.
Austin was also always looking out for his brother Hunter. He always had Hunter's back no matter if he was in the right, in the wrong, it didn't matter. Austin was only born about 4 minutes before Hunter, but even though he technically was the older one, and I guess they were born at the same time, like at the same moment, Austin just always seemed like the older and wiser brother. He always wanted to take care of Hunter. He felt like that innate instinct of just protectiveness over his brother. Now, whenever the boys weren't playing sports, they loved to go hunting, especially with their dad. And not only was it a really special bonding activity anytime they got to do it together, but it was also the last thing that any of the three of them were able to do together the weekend before Austin's murder.
I mean, our relationship is really the tightest I've ever seen in somebody, between two human beings. I mean, we did everything together, clean the dishes together, do the yard work together, sports. You name anything in the world, it's always us two and one thing. So you're always just basically one person.
You guys just a few minutes apart?
4 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Austin was first by 4 minutes. He got stuck in me.
So technically, you're bigger brother.
Yes, ma'am. He does a lot of big brother stuff around. He's always on my back. Even if I'm in the wrong, he'll always take my side no matter what. It's just really heartbreaking to see someone that cares for you that much and does everything even by your side no matter what, just pass away like that.
Mm-hmm. Your mom told me that you were there.
Yes, ma'am.
If you don't mind, what happened?
There was this kid, before I knew his name now, this kid was sitting under our tent at track. We asked him to move. He started getting aggressive and talking reckless. And my brother stepped in and said, "You need to move." And he's like, "Make me move." Austin grabbed his backpack. The kid, I tried to whip around as fast as I could, but I didn't see the stab. But then I look at my brother, and then I'm not going to talk about the rest. So yeah. That's just what I saw. And I tried to help him, but
it was just senseless.
It was really senseless. Really, I don't know why a person would do that to someone just over that little argument. It's just crazy in this world nowadays how people just up and do that. Like that man has a family. That man has people that care about them all the time, and he did everything for our family too. He was a strong man. He was a strong kid.
Austin obviously is the son, and also Hunter, who you're talking about here.
Yes, sir.
walk me through who Austin was to you? I know that you've said so much about him, I think, in the last 24 hours here. Everyone else has said a lot about him too, about how great of a kid he was. In your eyes, though, just as a father, who was he to you?
My boys are the biggest blessing in my life. God provided them to me. God's going to get me through this. I had a dream last night. And Austin came to me and said, I'm okay. It gives me peace. Doesn't mean I don't hurt, but it gives me great peace. So one of the things my son, Hunter, his ability to stay strong is a character to his brother. His brother, they had each other's back. They were tight. I've never seen a bond like that. Being identical twins, technically Austin was his big brother. Those boys were my everything. I had cancer almost 10 years ago. I wasn't supposed to live, but that was my why, to fight. And without those boys, I probably would have succumbed and gave in. But they were in my heart, and I fought hard because I wanted to be their father. I wanted to be there for them throughout the years they grow up, and so I can share my wisdom and share my mistakes so they won't do the same. Austin was an outstanding athlete, person, friend, loyal, loving. He would light up the room. He was such a leader naturally. On that team, he would fire those guys up. He would step on that field and he would become a totally different person. His level of play was above most everyone else. He led the team. He was voted team MVP by his coaches and teammates. He's had multiple coaches, colleges contacting. He is one of the most outstanding, him and his brother both have been athletes all their lives, from soccer to baseball to jiu-jitsu to football. They did it all and they excelled every time. And I told them, you guys are so lucky because not everyone has your talent, but you have to make sure you take that talent and harness it in the right way. And Austin was able to harness many things in his life. Loyalty to his brother, his love for all his friends and family. He was such an outstanding young man. I was so proud. I bragged on my children all the time. Anyone who knows me knows how much my kids meant to me. They were my entire world. My world's a little shattered, but I still have Hunter, and I always have Austin.
Now, one of the biggest questions in this case, and what has people so riled up, and we're going to get to more of the division of why in a moment here, but one of the biggest questions is, how does a 17-year-old boy go from being so innocent and being so loved by family and friends to then not making it out of a track meet alive, especially at the hands of another 17-year-old boy? So I think that these were the questions that a lot of people were asking because Austin's case just felt too close to home for all of these other parents out there. Even if it happened miles away or states away, it felt like if this could happen to him, it could happen to any of our kids.
Obviously, this is not about me. I have a 17-year-old son. I live 20 miles south of you. My son's in Frisco every night playing soccer, and we have a lot of friends who knew Austin. So the circles got tight, and this hit really close to home. And I'm just so sorry for you. Can you explain us at all today how you feel? It's just got to be so. The word I keep coming back to, Megan, is incomprehensible. How could this happen at a track meet?
It is. He just took my son is gone, and I don't really have words. I've tried to figure out what I was going to say, but he's just going to be so missed by mostly our family, but this whole community has really wrapped their arms around us. And if I could say anything to the nation, I would say to make sure that you just hug your babies tight, because you don't know when the last time you get to do it.
Hunter, I know you were there. Thank you, Megan. Take your time.
Now, while I don't think that there's anything I could say or any information that I could uncover that would make this make sense or feel fair, I mean, of course not, but it also is natural to want to understand how something like this happens and what can drive somebody to commit murder. Like maybe it would be a little bit more understandable if Austin and Karmelo knew one another, if they had some kind of conflict in their past, if there would maybe make sense as to what the motive in all of this was. And in fact, not too long after the stabbing, rumors began to spread that Austin and Karmelo did in fact know one another. In fact, that Austin was Karmelo's longtime bully. And the rumor made it seem like Karmelo had been building up to this for quite a while, or like Austin maybe had somehow brought this on himself. So it was almost a little victim blamey, but people were saying, yeah, Austin was a bully. He bullied Karmelo forever, so it was only a matter of time before Karmelo snapped. That kind of thing. However, what I do want to say through all of the research is that these rumors were complete. A spokesperson for Karmelo's family even came forward to say that Austin had never bullied Karmelo, that there was absolutely no truth to any of these rumors or any of the gossip. The spokesperson also said, quote, "The disinformation that is going online is hurting this case, and it has to stop. As we know right now, Austin Metcalf and Karmelo Anthony did not know each other." And this same spokesperson has also alluded to saying that there is more to the story.
Every Texan has the right to defend themselves when they reasonably fear for their life. Self-defense is a protection that applies to each and every one of us. There are two sides to every story. And Karmelo is a 17-year-old kid and an excellent student. He is the captain of his track team. He is the captain of his football team. And prior to this, what was on his mind was what college he was going to go to. This is a tragedy all the way around for both families. Rushing to judgment, trial by public perception and trial by media is not how we ensure justice is done. We are confident that after a full investigation, that the truth will come out.
Now, I think that we can all believe and trust the spokesperson in this situation, right? I mean, it would probably help Karmelo's case if Austin was his bully. It would be easier for him to argue self-defense if there was a history of Austin picking on him and hurting him. So the fact that Karmelo's family didn't go that route and actually put the kibosh on all of those rumors, and they didn't, glom onto this idea of Austin being a bully, it tells me that they were probably being honest when they said that the boys didn't know one another. They were just two strangers arguing about something that was so unimportant. I mean, about who gets to sit under a particular tent, a simple argument that meant nothing in the grand scheme of things. Yet somehow it escalated from that to murder. Now, that being said, I do want to share a quote that comes from Austin's dad, Jeff, because he witnessed the stabbing and he has spoken out about what he saw. Again, it's not like this one quote can make sense of all of the insanity in this case, certainly not, but he has publicly shared some details about the fight and about the stabbing so that hopefully it provides a little bit more context and it makes all of this a little bit easier to understand and grasp. And he said, quote, "They were sitting there and someone was behind them mouthing off and then they turned around and said, 'Who are you?' And he said, 'I'm Mello.' And they said, 'Well, you don't belong here. You don't go to Memorial.' He had a Centennial tracksuit on, so they said, 'Well, you need to leave. This ain't your spot.' And then some words were discussed that I'm not going to say on camera, but he asked them to leave, and he basically said, 'Make me.' And then he wound up stabbing him in the heart and killing him all over someone sitting in the wrong spot at a track meet. So yes, it was still completely random, but to hear Jeff tell it, it's not like the boys went from arguing to stabbing out of nowhere. It was like there was some kind of buildup, some kind of escalation. Now again, why it was important of who sat under what tent, I don't know. But it sounds like Austin and his friends were telling Karmelo to get out of the tent, and for whatever reason, that struck a chord with him, so much so to grab a weapon and attack Austin. Now, what I will say on the opposite side of that is that a lot of people find it difficult to believe that Karmelo would have needed to defend himself. And that's because Austin was apparently a good kid who didn't have a history of violence or any type of aggression. So to them, it seemed strange that he would threaten Karmelo badly enough that Karmelo would feel like his only option was to stab someone to protect himself. That said, Karmelo also didn't have any history of violence. He too was a good kid, a good student, a good athlete, and definitely not the sort of person that you would ever expect to commit a murder. Again, if it really was a murder and not self-defense like he claimed. Karmelo was a good student. He had a GPA of 3.7. He was the captain of the football and the track team. His teammates and his peers all respected him, loved him. He even worked 2 jobs in what little free time he had. He worked at Foot Locker and he worked at a local supermarket. And as for his family, they had moved to the area just a few years earlier from Baton Rouge. His parents were well respected. Karmelo was the oldest of 4 kids. They all had a good family dynamic. So it wasn't like you could make heads or tails of this at a surface level of somebody who had a history or a problematic background. I mean, no, both of these boys, 17 years old, good kids, good students, good friends, good families, which I think makes this case even more polarizing when you try to dissect it. Now, this detail might be key, but Karmelo had never been arrested before, not even for something small like loitering or trespassing or littering, nothing like that. Apparently, there were just no red flags, no warning signs to suggest that he may have a weapon on his person, that he may use that weapon on another peer at some point. I mean, nothing. However, of course, like I said, this case is divided, and not everybody feels that way. In part because not everybody is using the same facts. Not everybody is forming opinions using the same information. All right, guys, I've talked with you about Helix before. Honestly, it's because I love it so much. I've gotten like my mom hooked on their mattress. My sister loves it whenever she spends the night and watches the kids. And I have had this mattress since, gosh, when was it? 2021 or 2022. And I freaking love my bed. I literally rot in it if I don't have to work. And if I'm not with the kids, I'm just like, I can binge a whole show without feeling like I need to move. I even call it my moon cloud. I did not know that true comfort like this existed. And I think what I'm going to do is take some like BTS shots of my bed for you and put it on my Instagram story so you can see what I'm talking about, because it's so fluffy, it's so comfy, and it's all thanks to Helix. I always knew that there were different types of firmness and things out there where you would like go to a mattress store and do that. But then with like the ease of online ordering, I was like, you never really know what you're getting. But Helix nailed it, like full on, just flawless, because you go online, you take a little quiz, you enter in what your sleep habits are, if you're a side sleeper, a back sleeper, and then it tells you what the recommended mattress is. So I have the Sunset Luxe, and like I said, it is the best. My mom, I think I've told you this, came over to watch the kids one weekend, loved my bed so much that I had now bought her a Helix and sent it to her house, and she's like obsessed. Anybody who ever is on my bed too, which I mean, it's not a ton of people, but it's like my sister, my brother, my sister-in-law. Anytime people come over, even if they're just like sitting on my bed, they're like, why is this so comfortable? And it is Helix. So you got to check them out. They make it so easy. Whether you have a specific sleep issue like snoring, back pain, sleep apnea, sleeping through the night, sleeping too hot, they will change the game for you. So go to helixsleep.com/serialously and get access to their Memorial Day sale early. 27% off site-wide, plus free bedding bundle, which is a sheet set and a mattress protector with any Luxe or Elite mattress order. And this is exclusive for listeners of Serialously. That's helixsleep.com/serialously for 27% off site-wide, plus the free bedding bundle with any Luxe or Elite mattress order. helixsleep.com/serialously. Today's episode is sponsored by Hiya, and I've talked with you about this before, but especially if you're a parent, you understand that typical children's vitamins are basically candy in disguise. I mean, they're filled with 2 teaspoons of sugar, unhealthy chemicals, other gummy additives that growing kids should never eat, and that's why Hiya created a super-powered chewable vitamin. While many children's vitamins are filled with 5 grams of sugar, which is also known to contribute to a variety of health issues, Hiya is made with 0 sugar and 0 gummy additives. Yet it tastes great and it's perfect for picky eaters. They fill in the most common gaps in modern children's diets so that it provides the full body nourishment that our kids need, but still has a yummy taste that they love. And formulated with the help of pediatricians and nutritional experts, Hiya is pressed with a blend of 12 organic fruits and veggies. Then it's supercharged with 15 essential vitamins and minerals, including vitamin D, B12, C, zinc, folate, and so many others that support immune health, energy, brain function, mood, concentration, concentration, teeth, bones, I mean, you name it. It's non-GMO, vegan, dairy-free, allergy-free, gelatin-free, nut-free, and everything else that you can imagine. It's also sent straight to your door, so you have one less thing to worry about when you run out. I know for me, that was always like the bane of my existence, having to like reorder things. But I love Hiya not only because my kids love it and I know that I'm giving them something good, but when they first arrived, they had these cute decorative bottles that your kids get to put stickers on, that they get to like make color, make their own. And so they love it. It's almost like a fun little thing for them each time they get their bottle. And it's just been a staple in our house for, I think, like, I'm going on a year and a half maybe now. I mean, we've been using it religiously for a long time. And it doesn't stop with just vitamins. If you're tired of battling with your kids to eat their greens, Hiya now has Kids Daily Greens Plus Superfoods, which is a chocolate-flavored greens powder that is designed specifically for kids. And it's packed with 55 whole food ingredients to, again, support all of the things they need. You just scoop, shake, and sip with milk or any other non-dairy beverage for a very delicious and nutritious boost that your kids will actually enjoy. And we've worked out a special deal with Hiya for their best-selling children's vitamins. Receive 50% off your first order, and to claim this deal, you must go to hiyahealth.com/AE. The deal is not available on their regular website. Go to hiyahealth.com/AE to get your kids the full body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults. Like I mentioned in the intro, there has been a lot of misinformation and a lot of rumors related to this case. And there have also been a lot of people trying to sort of latch onto this case in order to promote certain agendas or make certain points and take a certain side. Of course, it's important to, yes, raise awareness of certain issues, and sometimes pointing to a tragedy and recognizing that there are ways that it could have been prevented is the right way to do that and to achieve that. But it also does feel like at times people have sort of ignored the real people who were impacted by Austin's death, just so that they could score points. Because there's one detail that I haven't mentioned so far. And depending on who you ask, it's either a detail that doesn't matter much at all, and it's wrong to even focus on it too much, or it's the key issue that makes this entire stabbing make sense. And that detail is that this was a case of a black teen stabbing a white teen. See, not long after Austin's murder, a political candidate named Jake Lang, who is running for the U.S. Senate, organized a protest titled Protect White Americans. It's also worth mentioning that Jake was one of the pardoned January 6th protesters, so if his name sounds at all familiar to you, that might be why. But anyway, Jake organized the protest not long after Karmelo's bail was lowered from $1 million to $250,000. And on April 14th, he was able to pay his bail and he was released to wait for his trial at home.
I feel it's fair. Bond, as the judge said, is not supposed to be an instrument of oppression. It's not supposed to keep people in jail. It's not supposed to punish.
Now, of course, there were stipulations to his release. He has to wear an ankle monitor. He can't leave his house without prior court approval. But anyway, that spurred Jake to then organize this protest. And he also created a flyer advertising the protest, which read, "Justin for Austin Metcalf. Demand Karmelo Anthony be put back in prison until trial." Now, trust me, I will be the first person to say, I understand the feeling that somebody who has been accused of murder should not get bail. There have even been times when I personally have felt like certain people shouldn't be allowed out, especially when a child is involved in the case as a victim. Sometimes there are good reasons for somebody to be held without bail. They might be a flight risk, they might pose a danger to other people, maybe even pose a danger to themselves. I mean, there are a wide variety of reasons. But I think that the whole issue here is the protect white Americans thing. And that's a direct quote, okay? I'm not just saying that. That is his quote that he was using. Because Jake didn't want to stop Karmelo from harming just anyone, only white people. And you can see where now politics were really coming into play here. Karmelo's parents argued that he was neither a flight risk nor a danger, and according to them, he didn't even have a passport, so it's not like he could have fled the country. And they said that keeping him on house arrest would allow him to be near his family and friends who would help, quote, keep him accountable. Those, again, are their words, not mine. But they say that the people in Karmelo's life will help keep him accountable. Now, on the other hand, some people have argued that even though Karmelo didn't have any prior arrests or convictions, he was allegedly involved in an altercation in school on February 4th of 2025, so a couple of months prior to the stabbing incident. Unfortunately, I don't know much that has been proven as fact about this altercation, but apparently it wasn't serious enough for law enforcement to get involved. I did see some rumors floating around that he allegedly had brought a knife to school once before, but I couldn't find anything to confirm it as true. And even if that did really happen and it was true, I don't know if that was the February incident that is being referred to, or if maybe that was a separate, unrelated incident. But all to say, everybody had an opinion in this. Everybody had a different take on whether it was fair or not for Karmelo to be out on bail at this point. And my personal opinion is that I see both sides of the argument. I see Austin's friends and family and advocates wanting Karmelo to remain behind bars because he's a threat, because he's impulsive. He reacted so quickly and so dangerously, and that is scary, and that is risky and dangerous. Yet, I also see Karmelo's side of the argument and his parents and him saying he's never had a bad history, he's a good student, good friend, he was provoked, this was self-defense, we'll put the ankle monitor on him, let him remain at home with his family, we will keep him accountable. I see both sides to it. And that is why it is so great that we have a judge who decides things in situations like this and not peers. And while there has been so much division out there about race and the politics of it all, I will say Austin's dad, Jeff, has been defending Karmelo. Well, kind of. I mean, obviously, it's not like he's okay with the fact that Karmelo stabbed his son. Obviously not at all. But he has come forward to tell people to stop making this political and about race, that this is not what this case should be about. Jeff even reached out directly to Jake Lang, the guy who wants to be the U.S. Senator who put that whole Protect White Americans protest together, and he told him, hey, take Austin's name and school picture off of your website. Take it off of your materials. I don't want Austin to be a part of anything that you're stirring up. Instead, he wanted the focus to solely be on getting Karmelo to trial and getting justice for Austin. That's it.
I want to clarify something right off the start because I've already heard some rumors and some gossip. This was not a race thing, and this is not a political thing.
Now, I think we can all agree the fact that Austin's family can't even focus on laying him to rest and grieving properly because they have to tell people who are claiming to be their supporters to stop is insane. If you are a supporter, leave the family alone if that's what they're requesting. And even though Jeff spoke out against it, the protest happened on April 19th. The organizer spoke with Jeff directly, and Jeff was not having it.
Yes, sir. What can I do for you?
Jeff, first of all, my entire heart rests in your hands. I would be in my position, not even as somebody even knew your son, but somebody that shares the same understanding. I grew up as a 17-year-old young white man too, and I grew up in fear of my life around black people because they were killing and robbing people around me all the time. And I don't understand as I was a father, you could sit idly by and not condemn the culture that killed your son. There is an epidemic problem in this country, and your voice could be one of the loudest voices in this country, but you've chosen to recoil out of fear and continue the suppression. Why will you not stand with me and with the rest of the people? We're not calling for racial divide. We're not calling for hatred. We're saying 350,000 attacks on white people by black people a year in this country is wrong. Why can't you stand that and say with that? Maybe you can. Would you be willing to stand by me in a press conference or in an individual interview and talk about this issue that is larger than Austin at this point? God rest a beautiful young man's soul that would have been one of our strongest voices if he was still alive today.
Are you done?
Yes, I am, sir.
Okay, my turn to speak. You are part of the problem, my friend. You're trying to create more race divide than bridging the gap. I do not condone anything you do. You do not have any.
That's called white guilt.
No, let it go. But my son, let me finish. I give you your time. You take my son's face off your website. I am not associated with you.
You're creating more Austin Metcalfs with your weakness, sir. You are creating more Austin Metcalfs with your weakness.
I mean, this whole thing was a mess. He's calling this grieving father weak. He's using racial slurs as a way to bolster his opinion and his point of view. And it is just appalling any way you look at it, in my opinion. I don't think that you can use murder as a way to justify any sort of white supremacy. And I'm not saying that that's exactly what he's doing, but it definitely comes across like that. Now, another thing about Jeff, Austin's dad, is there were some reports that he was supposedly arrested himself back in 2011 for sexual assault. However, I want to be clear, we researched it, we looked into it, and I have not been able to verify this claim. The county sheriff's office even told us that there were no arrest records or a police incident report for any sort of arrest like that related to Jeff. So again, could this just be one more piece of wild misinformation that's been going around? Seems to be, because there's no evidence to back it up, at least nothing that we could find, and with our discussions with the sheriff's office, nothing that they have on record either. Now, while we're on the topic of misinformation and rumors, it's also important to note that as of right now, the medical examiner's office has not released any information to the public or to the media. It's not even clear if they ever will release their findings, or if they're just going to keep them private out of respect for everybody involved. Yet, in spite of that, there have been images of what looks to be a medical examiner's report floating all around on social media. However, these images are fake, which has been confirmed by the Frisco Police Department. And that should also just be another illustration of how polarizing and crazy this case is becoming. People are doctoring images, putting out rumors, false narratives. So many people are getting involved in this case. And while I hope that the root cause of that is because they want justice for Austin and they want answers, it seems to me more like this is just turning into a battle of Austin versus Karmelo, or whatever side of that you're on, versus each other. And while we're on the topic of insane rumors, I also saw one story about Austin's cause of death. And if this wasn't such a serious case, I gotta say, this would almost be laughable, because the rumor goes that Austin didn't die from this stab wound that was really close to his heart, like witnesses saw and like we know happened, but rather from an MDMA overdose, which MDMA is like a drug, like a Molly, GHB mixture cocktail. Like, it's like this heavy drug, which I don't even understand how that could be slightly believable given what we know to be true about this incident. Yet that is what people are saying out there. Another rumor that is going around.
Now the police chief in Frisco, Texas, is calling for calm and calling for people to stop spreading misinformation about the case. His call to stop the rumors began after someone posted a fake autopsy online claiming that the victim was high on drugs and that the stabbing was not the primary cause of death. The police chief says none of that is true and posted, "Beware of those taking to social media to deliberately spread misinformation, hate, fear, and division."
With the rampant misinformation that's out there, the chaos and the hate has been spreading like wildfire. Karmelo has been getting hate mail, death threats. The rest of his family has also been on the receiving end of those, and it's been bad enough that they all had to address it at a very recent press conference. And this was the first time that they held a public event like this for the press. So I'd imagine that none of them ever even wanted to be in this type of situation. Yet, given how out of hand all of these nasty rumors and gossip are getting, they felt like they had no other choice but to confront it head on. Austin's dad, Jeff, even actually made an unexpected appearance before the conference even started, which you can imagine that caused a little bit of a ruckus because apparently Karmelo's family hadn't invited him, and they claimed that his presence there was a disrespect to the dignity of his own son. Yet Jeff argued that he simply wanted to be there to show that these two families were coming together in a productive way, that they didn't have to be enemies, they didn't have to fight each other, that they could be alliances together to get to the truth and to get justice for both of their sons. But the Anthony family, they weren't having it. They still asked Jeff to leave, and when he didn't, they warned him that he was going to be charged with trespassing if he didn't go away on his own.
Good afternoon. My name is Kayla Hayes. I am the mother of Karmelo Anthony. 3 years ago, my family moved to North Texas searching for a better life. Like so many other families, we wanted to give our children the future we did not have. My husband worked hard every single day to provide for us, to make sure we're in the best financial position possible. As a stay-at-home mom, I made it my life's mission to ensure our children are loved, nurtured, and supported every step of the way. In wake of this tragic incident, our family has been under attack. Whatever you think what happened between Karmelo and the Metcalf boys, my 3 younger children, my husband, and I didn't do anything to deserve to be threatened, harassed, and lied about. The lies and false accusations that have been said about us, especially over the past week, has been overwhelming. The lies and their amplification put my family in danger, as well as everyone in our community, everyone involved in the investigation, from the police, the attorneys, and the court staff. Our address and my husband's previous employer's address has been put on all social media platforms. My husband had to take a leave of absence because he's afraid what may happen to our family. His mental health is deteriorating day by day. We have endured death threats. My 13-year-old daughter is afraid to sleep in her own bedroom because she's fearful of what may happen to her. And let me be clear, the claims that were used about the public donation to buy a home or anything else are completely false. We have not received a single dime from the Give, Send, Go fundraiser. And the co-founder has stated that clearly. In the reality, we were just notified yesterday that we could begin to withdraw funds. And it still takes several days to receive those funds once a request is made. I don't know why we are being targeted and discriminated against before a fair trial. Our son deserves the same rights under the law that everyone is afforded to. He's been raised in a two-parent home with structure, stability, love, and we put God first in everything that we do. We believe in the Constitution, we believe in the laws of this state, but those laws must apply to all of us, not just some of us. To be clear, we will not speak publicly about specific details of what happened under the tent on that rainy and awful day. There's an active investigation that everyone involved wants to be full and fair. We believe in legal process, and that is where the truth will come out. To the family who experienced the loss, my heart truly goes out to you. To those who have supported my family, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We ask for your continued support, patience, and prayers as we navigate this difficult process. Thank you.
Now, regardless of which side of this case you stand on, I think we can all agree that that was a very emotionally charged speech that was given and statement. She's fearful for her other 3 children's safety, the death threats, the rumors, and she's just begging everybody to let Karmelo have a fair trial like everybody else is entitled to and just wait for that day. It is just becoming so toxic. Today's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Now, we've talked about this before, but mental health awareness is growing, yet there's still progress to be made. 26% of Americans who participated in a recent study say that they have avoided seeking mental health support due to fear of judgment, which is horrible, right? Because everybody should not only have access to it, but everybody should feel confident getting the help that they need. When people hesitate to get help, it doesn't just affect them, it impacts families, workplaces, entire communities. So I think it's so important. Therapy is something that I have done for years personally, on, off, whenever I feel like I need it, sometimes more regularly and consistent than others, but it really is such a great tool to use. For one, it helps just get a different perspective on things that you're facing or things that you're struggling with. It also will provide good coping skills, different mechanisms for you if you need to set boundaries or empower yourself. It just can be really helpful for whatever unique situation that you're in. And BetterHelp has over 10 years of experience matching people with the right therapist. They have a huge diverse network of more than 30,000 licensed therapists and a wide range of specialties. They're fully online too, making therapy affordable and convenient and serving over 5 million people worldwide. You can also switch therapists at any time for no extra cost. So we're all better with some help. Visit betterhelp.com/AE and get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/AE. I also want to touch on something that you just heard in that clip. There's been rumors going around about the family misusing funds, and that has been another really polarizing issue in this case. Because after Karmelo's arrest, his family set up a fundraising account on something like a GoFundMe, but not that. This platform is called Give, Send, Go. Sort of like a Kickstarter, sort of like a GoFundMe, but basically where you crowdsource funds. And the description of the fundraiser said that it was for Karmelo's legal costs, because as we know, good lawyers do not come cheap. And they very quickly raised hundreds of thousands of dollars. Last time I checked, it was up over $450,000, and it's probably even higher at this point by the time this episode is released. But with that comes more issues. Like the saying goes, mo money, more problems, because of course, it took no time at all before rumors began spreading, saying Karmelo's family was using this money to fund their lavish lifestyle, to rent a $900,000 home that's located in a gated community, to get a new luxury car, to hire private security, not using it for the defense attorneys and for the lawyers, but using it to fund their lifestyle. One of their neighbors allegedly also spoke out with a news outlet, staying anonymous of course, claiming that the family bought a brand new Cadillac Escalade. And Cadillac Escalades have the sticker price of something like $150,000 right now. Supposedly, they parked it right in front of their driveway for like the whole world to see. Just very proud of this purchase too. So something about the funds being mishandled and misused is not sitting right with the public either. Again, just an allegation. Now, this alleged neighbor also said, quote, he got a new car. If you look at the license plate, it's got a paper tag and it says that it expires June 4th. Now, I'm not sure if the he that this neighbor is referring to is Karmelo or maybe Karmelo's dad, Andrew. I can't imagine that there would be any reason for Karmelo to get a new car since he's on house arrest and can't really go anywhere. I mean, that's besides the point, but just thinking logistically. But either way, they are claiming that it's one of the family members' cars and that it's a brand new purchase ever since they started raising all of this money. And the reason that detail about the paper tag that expires on June 4th is so important is because in Texas, paper tags or temporary license plates are only good for 60 days. So if they had temporary plates that expired on June 4th, that would mean that they bought the car on April 4th. Which was just 2 days after the stabbing took place. And look, I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a moment, because you've got to admit the rumors look pretty bad if they are true. So I decided to dig a little deeper and see if there really was anything to these rumors. And here's what I found. First, this is something I mentioned earlier, but Karmelo's bail was originally set at $1 million. Then it got reduced to $250,000. Apparently, this was because his dad Andrew claimed at the bond hearing that the family was going through a financial hardship. They couldn't pay the original bail. It wasn't fair for it to be so high. It needed to be lowered. The judge, of course, asked them why they couldn't just use the money for this bail amount with the money that they had raised online, which his dad Andrew replied that they couldn't use it for bail because that's not what it was for, that those donations were specifically to go to Karmelo's legal fees. That said, he did admit that they did use some of that money for non-legal things. Specifically, security at their house was one of the things that they used this money on after they started receiving death threats. And then they also apparently had to move because their home address had been doxxed. And what doxing is when your personal information, whether it's your phone number, your address, your workplace, any private personal information is publicly available online and published online and kind of spammed all over the place. So what he's saying is that their home address had been doxed. So because of that, random strangers learned where they lived. So that coupled with the death threats, they had no other option but to relocate temporarily or maybe even more long-term. So Karmelo's lawyer spoke out saying, quote, it would be disingenuous to say there isn't money, but it's not a bond fund. This family needs to be able to survive. I'll also note that as of April 16th, the family has not withdrawn any money from their fundraiser. That's been confirmed by the co-founder of the company too, so I'd say it's pretty credible. And if they haven't touched the money, it's safe to say that they're not using it to buy flashy cars or rental houses, unless of course they already were purchased previously with a previous withdrawal. So again, it seems clear to me that a lot of these rumors are just misinformation or vastly exaggerated. I think it's things people are just making up to muddy the waters and to make a case that's already pretty complicated even harder to understand. So I guess it all has to be taken with a grain of salt, and you can each decide for yourself what you believe here. I'll also note that Andrew works as a finance manager at a car dealership. However, he's currently on a leave of absence for reasons I think that are pretty clear. And I don't know if Karmelo's mother works, so it's hard to say what their true financial situation is. But when it comes to the hate being shown toward both Karmelo and his family, I think it's important to be clear that Austin's family has never encouraged the hate or the harassment of any of it. If anything, they have publicly been trying to neutralize it. They never supported in or participated in any of the protests. They never told people to send death threats. They never told anybody to dox them, to get involved, nothing.
We haven't really had a chance to talk to you about this. You had mentioned a few times that you had forgiven the suspect for what
correct.
He did.
I do.
But we just informed you about these documents. And
that doesn't change anything. Okay. This has to do with me and God. God teaches us in the Bible. He talks about forgiveness. He also talks about revenge. Not for me to seek. God will take care of it. Karma, I believe in it. It's very unfortunate that this other child decided to make a bad choice that's going to affect him for the rest of his life. I have compassion for every human being. This is not, I want to make this very clear. This is not a race issue. This is not a black and white issue. I don't want someone stepping up on a soapbox trying to politicize this. I don't appreciate some of the remarks I've seen online that people say there was this fight and they don't know, they weren't there. I know the truth. So unless you were there, unless you saw it, don't spread gossip.
My focus of my story is, of course, on Austin. That is what's most important. But what would you say about the suspect and what's next?
Anything about him? We have nothing to say.
I've never met this kid until right then. It really was under 30 seconds, this altercation. I've never met this kid in my entire life. And it's just...
And to be honest with you, we don't want to give him any recognition or any care, because we have no desire to have anything to do with that man. So...
Now, because this is all still so fresh, it's going to be a very long time before this case goes to trial. But when that happens, I'm sure a lot more information will come out. Again, assuming that Karmelo fights the charges and pleads not guilty and says that this was all self-defense. And trials are usually where you will find out about people's motives, their backgrounds, any history that's not documented, all the things. Now, since Karmelo is so young, even when this does go to trial, he will not be facing the death penalty or life in prison without parole, because neither one of those sentences can apply to a minor. Instead, if he's convicted of first-degree murder, the very worst sentence that he will face is life in prison with the possibility of parole after 40 years. And of course, the sentence could be even lighter than that, or he could be found not guilty altogether. I mean, only time will tell. But at the end of the day, if there's one thing you take away from this episode, it's to not get involved in all the hate and all of the misinformation that's going around online. Austin's family deserves to mourn, to grieve, to move forward with their healing process, and to do that in peace. They shouldn't have to worry about being bullied or harassed online. And Karmelo's family should also be allowed to mourn, because even though Karmelo is, yes, alive, their lives have changed and shifted in a way that will be changed forever. So even if you think Karmelo was totally guilty, that he was reckless, that he was just angry and he had a short fuse and he deserves to go down, it doesn't mean that his mother or his father deserve to be punished and have their other children's lives threatened for Karmelo's actions. But it would be impossible to ignore that there is a very big racial divide in this case. A lot of people speculating too that the reason Karmelo's family is getting so much hate has to do with the fact that they're not white. Is that true? I don't know. Or are they receiving hate because their 17-year-old son killed another 17-year-old boy? You come to your own conclusions and form your own opinions. I just feel like in order to actually report on this case accurately, it would be irresponsible if I did not mention the political aspect of it and the race aspect of it, because that is such a large topic of this case. At the end of the day, though, we should all focus on keeping things fair, keeping things legal, and making sure that justice is served for everybody who has been involved in this case. And let's hope that we get some answers as to what truly caused this senseless death of this 17-year-old kid who had his whole life ahead of him. Was it self-defense, or was this clear-cut murder? Let me know what you guys think, but please keep it respectful. I will update you as soon as we have more updates in this case, but like I said, it's probably going to be a slow drip of information as it is still breaking in real time, but curious to know your thoughts. Thank you guys again for tuning into another episode with me. I will be back on the mic with you first thing Thursday with an all-new episode. Until then, watch your back, stay safe, be nice and don't kill people, and let's try to just treat others with kindness. All right, thanks guys. Bye.